Attention, ladies and gentlemen, we will now start the program. Please direct your attention to your screen as we start with an ecumenical invocation, followed by the Philippine National Anthem and the ASEAN Anthem.
As we begin our gathering, let us be aware of the presence of each of us and offer a prayer or a wish for the success of this event. Please put your right palm on your left chest and let us affirm ourselves with the following words, all together.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and be free. May I be happy.
Now, let us put our hands towards our screens and let us affirm one another with the following words, all together.
May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and be free. May you be happy.
Now, let us turn to our right as we face the southern direction. Let us remember the people of the south, Indonesia, Brunei Darussalam, East Timor, Singapore, Papua New Guinea, Malaysia, Australia, and New Zealand. May their gift of diversity and unity be shared to all creation. Let us all affirm them with the following words as we raise our right hand towards them. All together, we say,
May they be filled with loving kindness. May they be well. May they be peaceful and be free. May they be happy.
Now, let us turn to the western direction. Let us pray for the peoples towards the western direction, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, Thailand, and the rest of the Asian continent. May their gift of peace, calmness, and non-violence be shared to all creation. Let us all affirm them with the following words as we raise our right hand towards them. All together, we say,
May they be filled with loving kindness. May they be well. May they be peaceful and be free. May they be happy.
Now, let us turn towards the northern direction and remember the great peoples of the north, China, Japan, and Korean Peninsula. May their gift of greater harmony, positive collaboration, and understanding be shared to all creation. Let us all affirm them with the following words as we raise our right hand towards them. All together, we say,
May they be filled with loving kindness. May they be well. May they be peaceful and be free. May they be happy.
Now, let us turn towards the eastern direction and remember the people in the east, the Philippines and island nations in the Pacific Ocean. May their gift of resilience, strength in facing challenges, and hopeful and joyful predisposition in life be shared to all creation. Let us all affirm them with the following words as we raise our right hand towards them. All together, we say,
May they be filled with loving kindness. May they be well. May they be peaceful and be free. May they be happy.
Let us all gather our thoughts and awareness of these people and remember them in this event so that whatever fruits of learning we may gather from here, we may bring them back home and share them to those around us. May joy, love, and peace remain in our hearts
forever.
Good morning to all our guests from Southeast Asia, China, Japan, and South Korea. I am Ricamela Palis, and welcome to Crosslight Learning Sessions. Art is known to uplift spirits, move mountains, and alter perspectives. And for many of us here, it's how we make ends meet. But as the world continues to change directions in more ways than one, we continue to wonder, how do we keep art relevant? For the next 4 weeks, we'll be ruminating on what it means to be an artist during these trying times. It won't be just a showcase of different art forms. This will also be a celebration of our resilience as a region as we continue to face the mounting challenges brought about by the pandemic. Throughout the series, we'll be hearing from the best in their respective fields as they share their thoughts on how we can keep the passion alive and moreover, how it can continue to sustain us. By the way, we are also live in AUNCA and CHED's respective official Facebook pages. So if you can't join us now, you can also stream from those platforms. On that note, it's time to begin. Here to officially kickstart our series, please welcome the President of De La Salle University, the ASEAN University Network on Culture and Arts Host Secretariat, Brother Raimundo Suplido, FSC.
A pleasant morning to all our distinguished guests, Attorney Lily Milia, Dr. Choltis Di Rahititi, Mrs. Glorife Samodio, our distinguished speakers, Dr. Ryan Cayabyab, Mrs. Santha Bhaskar, Professor Hu Hongyi, our university rectors and presidents, international relations officers, cultural officers, artist teachers, students, and to every single creative soul attending today. And to our friends from all over ASEAN plus 3, Sawadee Krap, Salamat Datang, Mabuhay. Last year, we entered a new decade brimming with excitement as we faced a new beginning with fresh plans, bright ideas, and hopes for a clean start. But it didn't take long before COVID-19 changed all that. It didn't just bring the world to a sudden halt. It also substantially altered the way we live, the way we think, and the way we relate. And 16 months after the arrival of COVID-19, none of us is the same person. The pandemic certainly made us rethink the direction we're taking and to reevaluate our priorities. But suddenly, we also began seeing more value in the things we used to take for granted, like family, relationships, basic necessities, our health and our survival. Countless sectors and industries were affected, resulting in professionals losing their jobs and businesses struggling to pivot. Being highly dependent on social interaction and physical events, the creative arts and industries were among those badly hit. Artists were left with no pathways to develop their talents, no venues to hone their skills, and no opportunities to share their craft. Instead, they witnessed establishments being closed, events being canceled, and essential needs taking precedence. Even as the governments in ASEAN plus 3 countries continue to exert efforts to return to former programs and activities, questions still linger. How far are we to ending this pandemic? How will our creative talents and the art scene in general survive and thrive again? What will our life be like beyond this trying period? This is where Crosslight comes in. When we hear the word crosslight in theater terms, we immediately visualize two intersecting beams of light illuminating the stage. This is what this festival aims to achieve. As artists and creative professionals continue their uncertain journey, the AUNCA Crosslight Learning Series and Arts Festival seeks to be a light to guide them through the darkness. Currently in its maiden year, this event will bring together students, arts managers, artistic directors, and other collaborators in showcasing their talents, pursuing their passions, and celebrating what makes them breathe. Over the next few months, the event will serve as a platform for creatives all over the region to share ideas and manifest different talents. On behalf of De La Salle University, I extend my gratitude to the ASEAN University Network for Culture and the Arts, the Philippines Commission on Higher Education, and the Association of Cultural Offices in Philippine Educational Institutions Incorporated for working with us as we spearhead this series. May we continue to keep alive our passion for art and be inspired by one another. More power to you all.
Thank you, Brother Suplido. Now we'd like to hear from the ASEAN University Network. First up, please welcome its Executive Director, Dr. Choltis Diratiti.
Brother Raimundo Suplido, President of De La Salle University, Attorney Lily Freda Makabangun Mila of Chet, the Philippines, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 cannot stop us from gathering here today and in the next 2 months in order to deliver Crosslight, the online learning session and arts festival, specially designed and organized for students, people working in the art sector, art educators, and the general public. Speaking on behalf of the entire ASEAN University Network, or the AUN, I'm profoundly grateful to the organizers of Crosslight, the Secretariat of AUN for Culture and Arts, the Philippines Commission on Higher Education, and the Association of Cultural Offices in Philippines Educational Institutions for pioneering this wonderful package of research forum, performance showcase, film festival, design arts exhibition, and the learning session with part of the contents that anticipate an audience adaptation to the new normal mode of work. I should also like to express my gratitude to De La Salle University for spearheading and supporting the culture and arts educational activities within the AUN and the ASEAN Plus 3 University Network, with the benefits that go out to the whole education sector in the ASEAN and East Asian regions. AUN has been very much committed to explore the actual phenomena of ASEAN centrality and how we could raise more awareness about our commonalities and differences. Much has been said about unity in diversity. The AUNCA Crosslight event is to share it to the widest possible audience. Our arts and culture are synonymous to the civilization of the countries of Southeast and East Asia. I'm delighted to observe that many universities and institutions from ASEAN and East Asia are cooperating in this event, and I hope everyone who participates in Crosslight will find it a rewarding learning experience, not only useful, but intrinsically illuminating.
Thank you, Dr. Choltis. Next, to kick off our series and to give us a background of what's in store for us in the succeeding sessions is the Culture and Arts Director of De La Salle University, the Chair of the ASEAN University Network on Culture and the Arts, and the President of the Association of Cultural Offices in Philippine Educational Institutions Incorporated, Miss Glorife Jill Samodio.
A pleasant morning to all. To Brother Ray Suplido, FSC, Attorney Lily Milia, to Dr. Choltis Diratiti, and to our dear colleagues in AUN, AUNCA, ACOPE, and the AUN Secretariat. First, I would like to thank everyone for their participation in the first ever Crosslight online learning sessions. It has been more than a year and a half since our last AUNCA and ACOPE face-to-face gathering, as things made a sudden turn due to the pandemic. We understand that we have all become preoccupied with all the challenging situations presented to us at home and at work as culture and arts managers, artist practitioners, arts educators, and student artists. In all aspects, life has not been easy, as generally the creative industries across the region, especially those that involve performing arts and live events, tightly linked with the gig economy, have been greatly affected, with decreased incomes and jobs lost. At the home front, those of us handling cultural programs and managing cultural centers or offices most likely tackled the issues of streamlining operations, migrating artistic trainings of the students online, retooling our arts teachers to online modalities, and for some, downscaling our human resource and cutting down on scholarship funds for student artists. Throughout those months, our indefatigable AUN core team has met several times trying to check out the situation in other ASEAN and Asian countries and the levels of impact that the pandemic has brought to us and our culture and arts landscape. The saddening conditions presented to us by our colleagues during our annual meeting last December 2020 sealed our conviction that indeed we need to take action as a network because the future of culture and arts and the creative industries is at stake as we recognize that us academic institutions feed the industry. The effects of the collective efforts of our cultural offices in academic institutions and professional arts organizations, when taken together, will surely impact the quantity and quality of our future artists and artist managers who will uphold the creative industries. The general intent of the Crosslight Learning Sessions is simply to provide a way for all of us in the creative industries and educational institutions to exchange ideas on how we can soldier on as we transition to the new normal. Crosslight means to illuminate the stage with two crossing beams of light. This would be an appropriate term for how the different cultures and insights crosslight to shed light on the ASEAN Plus 3 creative industries in its current state. On the theme Innovate Asia, strengthening the ASEAN Plus 3 youth's creativity and resilience in the new normal, invites us to introspect on our identity as Asians, as all of us in the academe are being challenged to innovate our pedagogies and creative practices to ensure that our youth, being the culture bearers and future creators of art, will be reinforced with the necessary knowledge and skills for them to continue and flourish in their craft despite the uncertainties brought by the new normal. By this time, some of us are already easing our way out of this pandemic, and it would be good to know how they have all been addressing the different sets of freedoms and limitations set by our governments in relation to the work that we do in culture and the arts. As we start this endeavor, I would like to thank the unwavering support of the ASEAN University Network, the Philippines Commission on Higher Education, De La Salle University, and the Association of Cultural Offices in Philippine Educational Institutions, Incorporated. The AUNCA Crosslight Learning Sessions will not be possible without you. We are indebted to your generosity and we hope that you will continue to support us in our future events. On behalf of AUNCA, we would like to thank in advance our speakers from different parts of the world and the AUNCA representatives who have agreed to share their invaluable insights and knowledge to all of us and for helping us invite our esteemed speakers. To the AUN and DLSU organizing team for ensuring that our program series flows smoothly. And lastly, to you, our dear participants and audiences, for your trust. We hope that this 4-day webinar series will enrich your knowledge and skills so we can be better arts educators, arts managers, arts practitioners, and student artists. We look forward to your active engagement and sharing during these sessions. We at AUNCA believe that through our unity, culture and arts will prevail.
Thank you, Ms. Jill, and to our distinguished guests for those inspiring words. We are even more excited to learn a lot in this series. At this juncture, we are ready to officially start our series. Today's theme is the role of the arts in healing and gearing up for the new normal. As creative individuals, we can't deny the role the arts play in our psychological, spiritual, and economic sustenance during these unprecedented times. And despite hailing from 3 different countries, today's speakers are unified by their belief in that power. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming our first keynote speaker. He has been a fixture in the Philippine music scene since the 70s, known for his concise and versatile technique spanning genres from classical compositions to mainstream chart toppers. He's also hosted a long-running eponymous TV series and appeared as a judge in several reality competitions. Up to this day, his work continues to encapsulate the exuberance of the human spirit and the essence of the Filipino soul, which makes him a household name through and through. In 2018, he was conferred as National Artist for Music, as a testament to his undisputed legacy. Much more recently, he spearheaded Bayanihan Musikahan, an advocacy organized to address the needs of the artists and the less fortunate amidst the pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, Ramon Magsaysay awardee, whom everyone in the industry endearingly calls Mr. C, the maestro himself, Mr. Ryan Cayabyab.
Hello and good morning, everyone. I am Ryan Cayabyab, and I'm here to share with you my experiences as a professional musician and later on as an advocacy promoter and implementer. Hopefully, you can pick up lessons and tips from these experiences as you mold your own future as well as your respective community's future. I started working as a professional musician at age 16. I played the piano as a accompanist of a band choir, and that early I learned that great collaboration produces great results. It also helps when the organizational structures are in place and followed. In the case of the choir setup, I only follow the music cues of the conductor. The choir conductor's leadership is put to the test in the way he or she would produce the sound of the choir. And the sound of the choir is the result of discipline, a discipline instituted by the music leader, the conductor. And at age 16, I knew how to follow. I learned the dynamics involved in this particular setup, the constant rehearsals until you get everything right. The singers in the choir need to be well trained and ready for the final evaluation, which happens during performances. As an aside, I must say that having members of this choir to be much older than I am, maybe old enough to be my father or mom or my eldest sibling, helped in my formation in this discipline. All the choristers were bank employees and only sang in the choir as an extracurricular activity, which they used for social gatherings and for the bank as a cultural promotion arm. All throughout my first 3 years in the university, I was a working student. My love for music was born out of the fact that my mother was an opera singer and was a university teacher, a faculty member of the College of Music. Every single day of my growing up years was a day of music, but this stopped when my mother died. I was only 6 years old. And although I had my first lessons by 4, I only continued to study on my own. I taught myself how to read musical notes and practice on the piano from age 8 until I could easily read music at sight. Hence, by the time I was 15, I was ready to audition as pianist for this institutional choir, and because I lied about my age, they still took me in when they discovered the truth. This work paid my way through my university education. I first enrolled as a student in business administration, major in accounting at the University of the Philippines. But throughout my first 2 years in college, I hung out with music students more than my classmates in business. I got to train also as a singer for the Philippine Madrigal Singers, and this paved the way for a chance meeting with a popular singer-actor at that time, who offered me a job as his pianist and music director. Working with a young professional in the entertainment industry was an exciting ride for me. It was fun to get to meet the top entertainers in the music industry as I worked as a music director, pianist, and arranger, eventually for other luminaries. But at age 18, I was offered a scholarship to study music, which I thought was an exhilarating turn of events. Well, you have to understand that when my mother died, she had my dad promise to have none of me, my siblings, and myself to choose music as a career. Growing up, I never dreamed of becoming a musician, and even at present, you will hear parents admonishing their children not to take up music in college. The reason being, one cannot live on music. So when I told my father that I had just been offered a scholarship in any music college of my choice, he just smiled and asked how old I was. And when I answered 18, he said, "Well, you're old enough to decide for yourself." So there, I made my way to the College of Music of the University of the Philippines and graduated with a Bachelor of Music degree, major in composition. I studied while working as a professional musician in the music and entertainment industry. As a musician, I got to travel all around my country, all over Asia, including Australia, also in choice countries in Europe and the United States of America. The education you get from traveling complements everything you learned in college. Please do not ask me why I still had to go to college when I was already working and earning pretty okay as a professional musician. Well, you will never know what the future holds for you, and there are so many realizations later in my life why I reached this point where I am now. And that is the summation of all the learnings, formal and informal. But this is getting ahead of my story. This is what I did after graduation. I was offered a teaching post at the university and I grabbed it immediately. I think it is cool to be a teacher, and I never ever regretted the day I worked as one. You learn more than what you teach when you teach young people. And because I like having lots of fun, I made sure the students learn their lessons well while having fun as well. I think that is how my students will remember me. I did not sever my ties with the music and entertainment industry while teaching in the university. I scored films, more than 20 of them. I did recordings as arranger, producer, and pianist. Lots and lots of them. I did a lot of concerts with the best Filipino entertainers. I wrote musicals, ballets, an opera, wrote songs, more than 700 of them. I wrote orchestral works and original orchestrations. I wrote complete masses, congregational ones, and concert masses. And I even hosted a television show for 6 years. Did I even dream of hosting a television musical show? Never. But I accepted all the challenges. Because you will never know, you will never ever know what is in store for you if you do not step up and accept new challenges. In the late 80s to the early 90s, I auditioned, trained, and produced several albums for a teen singing group called the Smoky Mountain. I must have written close to 50 songs for them, and I must say that the most popular of all my songs recorded by them is this song entitled The Coconut Nut. That project lasted for 6 years. At the turn of the millennium, I accepted a post to head a music foundation. We managed one of the top philharmonic orchestras and master chorales in the country has ever had. But this challenge had a price. I had to resign my post as an assistant professor in the university. The foundation lasted for 6 years. In the last decade, starting from 2010, I embarked on a fantastic ride that took me to the heart of Filipino creativity in music. 5 very important projects sliding from one to the other, sometimes simultaneously, has got my heart pumping with excitement. And I am back to teaching, but not in the formal sense this time. More like in workshops and camps, and most of these involved a renewed interest in original Filipino music. What are these projects? Maybe you can learn something from this. Number one, the Elements Music Camp. Together with a benefactor and an operations manager, I rallied various professional songwriters of the country to come and share their knowledge with young, budding songwriters from around the country. We selected 60 campers every year, sent them to a music camp located in Central Philippines in the province of Negros Oriental. We shared with them a comprehensive curriculum that gave them tools in creating songs. We shared our experiences with them, lectured them on the history of Philippine popular music, taught them rights as creatives, critiqued their songs, the songs that they wrote in camp, and inspired them to write in their own language. We have a total of about 360 graduates of this camp through the years. And the present batch of the best-known young songwriters to have come from this camp include Ben and Ben, Moira de la Torre, Tyro and Yumi, Bullet Dumas, etc., etc. This project lasted for 6 years. Number two, the A Cappella Open. Together with the Music School of Ryan Cayabyab and benefactors, we held an annual competition for contemporary a cappella groups. This involved going around the country doing training workshops and lectures on how to perform and arrange contemporary a cappella music. This competition has produced at least 4 champions in Asian competitions of contemporary a cappella, and 1 internationally recognized champion, having won gold in Vocal Total in Austria, top winner in Vocal Asia in Japan, top category winner in Russia for their Summer Vocal Festival, top winner in China, and top winner in Singapore. The group, A Cappella had just appeared as main performer in Vocal Jam USA. The project is ongoing but has slowed down with the current pandemic situation. Number 3, the Philpop Song Festival. The Philpop Song Festival is a national songwriting competition and is seen as the logical conduit for young songwriters. Many of the graduates of the Elements Music Camp have won top prizes in this competition. A workshop entitled Songwriting with the Maestro, and eventually the Philpop Songwriting Camp took over from where the Elements Music Camp left off. The handle or battle cry for the Philpop Song Festival is Breaking Borders. This is twofold: breaking national barriers by enticing young songwriters to write in their language. We know how language can create a distinct musical sound, and we exhorted them to contribute to Philippine song literature by expressing themselves in the language that they are most comfortable in using. Of course, it is also a vision to break international borders. So far, the national borders have been broken basically by two grand prizes having won by two different regions outside the national capital region. This project is ongoing. The finals were staged last year via a virtual presentation. The songwriting bootcamp will continue this year and is now called the Philpop Digital DigiCamp. It will be done on a virtual platform. Number four, the Pinoy Playlist Music Festival. This three-day music festival features all Filipino music in all genres, from tribal music to classical or serious Filipino music, rock bands, jazz bands, folk music groups, solo performers, orchestras, choirs, mixed ensembles, symphonic bands. Name them, they have performed in the Pinoy Playlist Music Festival. The project is sponsored by companies who believe in the propagation of Filipino music and is housed in a venue with three performance stages. It is a very festive atmosphere, and season pass holders can go from one venue to another for free, since every night there will be shows every hour in the three venues simultaneously. And the fifth one, the Bayanihan Musikahan. The Bayanihan Musikahan was the result of an immediate reaction of concern for the marginalized sector of our urban population during the start of the COVID lockdown in our country last year. It was a fundraising event done online with the participation of more than 100 musical artists, on the one hand performing almost every night for 2 months, and a professional fund managing organization which works with an organized or urban poor group on the other hand. The birth of this 2 month event was hatched by well-meaning citizens who wanted to create a feeding program for the poor who could not perform their jobs as daily wage earners during the lockdown period. The project raised an unprecedented 133 million. And we bought produce from farmers and fishermen, and these were distributed to families via an organized network. The church and a prominent women's organization also assisted us in this project. In all these projects, you will notice that a partnership with a benefactor or a sponsor or a principal fund source is the common factor that will propel your projects. I would like to think that it is not difficult to look for project partners as long as the benefits to the community is of primary consideration. There are other factors, most important of which is that you must have sound ideas, scientific data and articulate project facilitators or implementors. So I hope you have learned something from this presentation. Everybody, have a great day and mabuhay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cayabyab. Mabuhay po kayo. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't go away. Day one of Crosslight Learning Sessions will continue after this break. Mr. Cayabyab will be back for the open forum, so please reserve your questions. You may write down your questions at the Zoom link chat box or at the comment section of the Aun-Ca page. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I'm Ricamela Palis, and this is day one of Crosslight Learning Sessions entitled The Role of the Arts in Healing and Gearing Up for the New Normal. Earlier, we kick-started our series of lectures with Mr. Ryan Cayabyab, and now we're ready to meet our next guest. Our second keynote speaker was born in Kerala, India, but relocated to Singapore at the tender age of 16. While devoted to math and science, she was always destined for the world of dance and was trained in the tradition of Mohiniyattam, Kathakali, and Bharatanatyam. Her husband, Santha Bhaskar, established one of the first Indian dance schools in the Lion City. Thanks to her exposure to other cultures, she eventually infused other Asian dances into her choreographic work and has since been and regarded as a pioneer of the art form in her adopted homeland. She continues to teach Bharatanatyam. To her, dance is more than movement. It's also the communication of the soul with the stage as her temple. In 1990, she was awarded the Cultural Medallion, the highest honor bestowed upon Singaporean artists. In 2016, she was awarded the Public Service Star and led the Singaporean delegation at the ASEAN Contemporary Dance Festival held in Indonesia. And in 2021, she was hailed as one of the inductees of Singapore Women's Hall of Fame. To this day, she continues to serve as artistic director and chief choreographer at the Dance Academy and the NUS Indian Dance of the National University of Singapore's Center for the Arts. Please welcome Mrs. Santha Bhaskar.
Good day to everyone. The dance Bharatanatyam, which I communicate with, is deeply rooted in tradition. Its tenets and philosophies are described in detail in the treatise on Indian dramaturgy called Natya Shastra, a text written by Bharata Muni and compiled by many others over thousands of years ago. The question arises naturally whether such a treatise can serve any purpose in this challenging time. Bharata Muni himself preempted this and said the concept may evolve with allowance to innovate, reinvent, adjust, adapt according to geographical situation and time. The solo lyrical dance from South India travelled and migrated to Singapore in 1952 and has since transformed considerably. A style practiced in the temple grounds shifted to the proscenium stage, which changed the face of this art. Solo dance evolved into group choreography simply to make the use of space and time more efficient. Dancers believe the stage is the temple and the audiences are heavenly bodies, making dancers the communicating soul. This makes the dance spiritual, not just physical activity. Its purpose is not just entertainment, but inner attainment. Bharatanatyam has now become my voice. My dance and myself suffered emotionally during the lockdown period. The time has dimmed the lights on live performances. The live audience disappeared and physical dance came to a standstill. Dancer's body needs a studio. Studios were all shut because of lockdown. The weird silence from the void was frightening. When you hear the cry of people whose loved ones have gone forever from this earth, I could not even think of my dance, whether dance is important or the suffering of the souls. Values and beliefs that are all tested in these difficult times. For some reason, dance moved slowly inwardly towards the dark space of my thoughts and imagination, a place I may be neglected during this period. Bhaskar's Dance Institution, Music Dance Company, department, staff and the dance company dancers were in need of moral and financial support during this period for survival. I have to find ways to keep them occupied with their art and give them their salary so that their families won't starve during this period. For this, the art needs to take a different shape and path for survival. This decision made to conduct online classes that became the new normal, and parents and students felt comfortable. Dance made close to home, family, made more meaningful for everyone. Despite physical challenges, students spend more time studying dance theory and the rasas, the human emotions. Dance moved forward to reinvent, to go deeper, to use the situation to express using technology. Confinement for those of us locked in at home was healing because we could still share our arts to students and their parents who felt a big sigh of relief. Students' confidence improved and they started asking questions, which was very unusual, and there was a healthy rapport between the instructors, students and parents. There was a healthy dialogue happening during the Zoom classes. Dance helped with their mental wellness also. Digital grant was offered by the National Arts Council of Singapore. Most of the artists, even freelancers, used this opportunity to produce short virtual shows for audiences whom you have no idea who they are. Now social media is crowded with virtual shows. Whether we like it or not, conception, habits, including the digital world from whom we are, our values, our inclinations are a patchwork of belief that are also tested in these difficult times. Phase 3 opened live performances at the theatre as pilot program. Bhaskar's dance company was invited to perform. That was our dawn. 3 solo dancers with triple bill saw the light and the audience cheering. The first cleansing was performed, followed by many more productions. Dance returned to the physical stage, and that all artists are inspired to create work despite the challenges we are all facing. The production on Question of Time for the Center for the Arts, National University of Singapore at the University Cultural Center had the privilege of using digital music with classical Indian music elements. For the dancers whom they are used to traditional Bharatanatyam music was an experience and an eye-opening. This helped them to understand there are possibilities around. What they need is to tap them. Working with visual artists made the dancers realize how arts are all connected. There is a thread connecting to all the arts. Audiences are yearning to be in a theatre to watch live performances. All the shows are selling out in advance. Arts do heal, allow us to re-examine what it means to be human, and that voice could express and bring people and ideas together. I penned this rasad emotions that went through my mind during lockdown. I romance with dance, experience pathos that I am unable to witness the laughter of my audience. Where are they? Where are they? Rage increases the more distant they are from me. Enough of this disgust towards a screen, wearing a mask to hide my fear from the unknown. Courage to explore the possibilities, to connect, mesmerized by the mysterious wonders of this world. If I surrendered to the time, Kala, will the nature of my dance become divine? To transcend the individual self, to project my skill and inspired creativity, when the door has finally opened, the dim light now becomes bright. Thank you very much.
That was an insightful and vibrant peek into the world of dance. Thank you very much, Mrs. Bhaskar. She will be back for the open forum, so please reserve your questions. You may write down your questions at the Zoom link chat box or at the comment section of the AUNCA page. To our dear guests, please join us after the break. We'll be having our last keynote speaker. This is Crosslight's Learning Sessions, Day 1. Welcome back. Once again, I'm Rika Palis, and this is day one of Crosslight's Learning Sessions, the role of the arts in healing and gearing up for the new normal. Our third and final keynote speaker for today's installment is an award-winning writer whose rich body of work includes novels, songs, radio plays, screenplays, operas, musicals, and puppet shows. He's a member of the China Writers Association and was awarded Bagui Scholar, a distinction earned by high-level leading talents in Guangxi. He has since added professor to his credentials as he now serves Guangxi University both as Dean of School of Arts and Executive Director of Junwu Cultural Research Institute. Also, no surprise, even during the pandemic, he continued putting his creative gifts to good use as he managed to mount a number of productions. All the way from China, please welcome Professor Hu Hongyi.
大家好，我是胡宏一，来自广西大学。我们广西大学在校园戏剧创作上呢，还是有一点渊源和基础，因为在我们这里有一个我们自治区的一个八桂学者岗的儿童剧和校园戏剧创作基地。另外，再加上原来本人从事专业的舞台戏剧的编剧导演工作。 也有一些创作基础，所以说到广西大学以来，从2016年起，我们就开始着手跟地方的院团一起合作校园戏剧和儿童剧的创作。因为机缘巧合，我在广西的一个世界非物质文化遗产的所在地。 广西崇左市的宁明花山，有过1年多的创作经历。在那个创作当中，我发现花山周边的人文环境和自然风光给任何一个地方都不太一样。于是我们就萌发了一个想为了这个花山做一个原创故事的一个想法。于是我就跟我的团队作曲、表演老师，我们就一起商量。 才有了这个花山奇缘的创意的一个缘起。我们的校园戏剧《花山奇缘》讲了一个这样的故事：在遥远的过去，花山祖厅上保护落叶先民的红人首领，突然遇到天雷的袭击，蜕变成了一个贪婪的花怪。花怪强令 众乡亲定区要送去美丽的女童，否则的话就会使一些魔法摧毁我们的落叶家园。为了保护亲人，成年的男人奋起反抗，全部被掳走，生死不明。于是铲除花怪的重任从此落在了部落男童的肩上。阿公每到月初便主持比武，遴选获胜的小英雄。 以奉献女童的名义，去趁机铲除花怪，每次都无人生还。为了保护自己的亲妹妹阿美，败将阿呆违规跟随着获胜的阿聪前往花山。他最终发现了一个惊天的秘密。他发现什么了呢？所有的大人和女童都还活着，只是被花怪施展魔法，变成了一个治疗失眠症的 奇花异草，而那些打怪的小英雄们，一旦用神箭射死了花怪，就忍不住诱惑、贪玩、骄傲，触碰到花怪的躯壳之后，又变成了新的花怪。阿呆急中生智，跟阿美玩起了躲猫猫游戏，以眼不见心不乱的古落叶祖训，战胜了孩童特有的骄傲情绪和贪玩的天性。 最终将暴虐的花怪降服重生，涅槃为保护众生的花神，不仅成功的解救了亲人，还成就了一对笨小孩 拯救世界的完美逆袭。我们在这个《花山奇缘》这个故事里边的主人公是个笨小孩，他名叫阿呆。我们想揭示的也是一个笨小孩不笨，笨小孩没准还能拯救世界的故事。这是一个典型的寓言的童话励志故事。有了这个剧本之后，我跟我的主创商量，把它在1度的基础上做什么样的2度呈现呢？我就有很多设想，比如说用一些好的舞美，用转台，用空中垂钓，用各种舞台的置景。但是就在我们准备好好排戏的时候，疫情来了。这一次是席卷全球的一开始让人觉得无法阻挡的疫情。我们学校停课了，很多课程都是网上授课，公共场所全部都封闭了，很多剧场、电影院也都受了很大的影响，关闭起来。那我们现在这个项目在这个基础上已经申请获得了自治区党委宣传部的3年创作计划，节项和展演的日期又迫在眉睫，怎么办呢？我们就在想办法。由于防疫的规定，我们不能要求学生返校排戏，我们只能在网上发出动员，让一些自愿逆行回来排戏的同学和老师参与这个活动。我们这个戏里边一共有48个角色，也做了大量的服装，很好看的远古时代的这些装饰，但是台上的演员只有14个，一个老师带着另外13个学生，大多数是研究生在演出，这给我们带来了很大的挑战，简直就是一个无法完成的任务。一开始说要在剧场展演，这时候广西的疫情已经接近第1波的尾声，定好了剧院，但是我们也是很发愁，那我们这14个人怎么能够演40-50个角色呢？就算你很勤奋，用尽一切办法，他也无法完成去换服装、换道具、换角色这种轮换。就在这时候，某地又有疫情起来，我们自治区的党委宣传部又有新规定，说不用线下了，可以用线上录像的方式结项。这个想法对于有些剧团来说是个困难，但对于我们学校来说恰好解放了我们。因为我们很多老师和学生是学电影的，我们想到了摄影棚拍摄的方法，我们就经过短短21天的排练之后，我们用最好的电视台的设备就架在我们的小剧场里，我们就拍一场，就是停下来，让不同的角色中间轮换，让不同的服装进行跟剧中人变换着穿戴，才完成了这个最终的拍摄。连拍摄带排练一共花的时间也不超过23天。
慢慢来，慢慢来，都该走了。前面那些小孩都应该走，只是那些小孩贪玩儿，经不起诱惑，最后就变成他了。不一定是有罪，因为你也是被雷劈的，对吧？你。
观众的地方就看一个点，这就是你的交流的过程，对不对？你不要他的就看一个点，又看一个点，又看一个点，
转转最后歘打个弹弓，啪分开来。对，这个意思，明白吗？
明白了。
因为你们本来就是合体的嘛。哎，妈妈带着孩子一出来一比划，你俩一长一手过来搂在一起，往前走2步，完了。
这是喜欢，然后
可以，
给他搬一尺寸这个
没错。
然后他一过来，你们俩
就随时旋转，就像小彩旗那样。小彩旗在春晚怎么旋转呢？1圈、2圈、3圈，第3圈的时候你过来了，你过来背靠背，你们俩一起转。我们这个戏在排练和拍摄当中还是遇到很大困难的，因为由于疫情，我的合作团队服装是在宁波做的，因此直到我们到了拍摄日期，有一部分服装还没有寄到我们手中，是找兄弟院团借了非常近似的服装替代的。更大的困难是舞台美术，我们本来想做转台，做一些能够帮助演戏的支点，便于演出。结果因为在湖南制作，我的舞美设计师是湖南艺术学院的一个著名的舞美家，也运不来，我们只能是用空的舞台来做这个戏。但是我们这个戏的风格又不是一个现代后现代的戏剧样式，又必须要有一些背景，怎么办呢？我就想到了找朋友求助。有一个朋友是开动漫公司的，他一直在做动画片，我就找他，我说你能不能用最短的时间，用最少的费用，给我做一个动漫版的准3D 的一个 LED 大背景，另外我再在两侧做上几排背景的侧幕条，一起用这种奇幻的景象和影像来帮助我们表达这个戏剧所要表达的主题，来塑造所想塑造的人物。就在这种紧锣密鼓当中，我们还是总算做到了，尽管留下了这样或者那样的遗憾，我们还是完成了这个自治区党委宣传部交给我们的任务。为了演出方面，也为了以后有机会进行市场公演，所以说我以前的这几部儿童剧啊，人物都不多，因为它便于移动，还有一个就是它更容易紧凑的讲故事。我们的《花山奇缘》里边的人物加一起也就是6、7个人啊。我们的男一号叫阿呆，我们给他命名的就是一个笨拙的男孩，还有一个阿聪，阿聪就是聪明的男孩。第3位就是阿美，阿美是我们的女一号，是个勇敢的女孩。还有阿妈，阿妈呢是阿呆和阿美的母亲，她是一个慈祥的一个壮族的年轻的母亲。那么阿公呢，就是这个在这里边长老，他最睿智啊，长长的胡子像一个老神仙一样。然后是花怪，花怪和红人在我们原来的设定里边其实是一个人，因为前面他是花怪，是花神，当他遇到了天雷的打击之后，患上失眠症之后呢，就变成了一个青铜这个还有黑铁颜色的一个叫花怪。剩下的就是一些群众角色，比如说母亲们呐、孕妇们呐、男童们呐、女童们，还有种花朵等等等等。跟服装、跟道具、跟舞美、跟这些困难比，实际上我们排这个戏最大的困难是我们的演员。
我们这5个演员都没有受过表演训练，他们都不是专业人士，在零基础的情况下，他们怎么能够用声台形表的这种方式去塑造人物呢？这是个天大的难题，因为这要是在外的其他的艺术学校，表演专业需要花4年的本科才能完成，我们在这短短的21天的时间内，那是几乎不可能完成的一个任务。那怎么办？我就动员了3波导演组。第一，我找来了原来广西话剧团的导演张帅老师，他带着他的团队来给我们抠台词，把我们完全从零基础，从呼吸，从吐字，从发声，从怎么做人物交流开始培育。那你就算学会了说话，还有一个问题是，一个没有受过肢体训练的人怎么能在舞台上行走，能够怎么驾驭自己的身体，把自己松散的四肢变成一个能控制的、一个能够表情达意的工具呢？我们又请来了以李老师为主的舞蹈组，他们都是优秀的舞蹈家，他们也在学声台形表的同时，给我们进行舞段的培训。于是我们的学生们学会了说话，学会了在舞台上走路。但是还有一个困难，就是我们毕竟是音乐剧，音乐剧里边有大量的唱段，中国的大量的音乐剧解决不了说、唱和跳的关系，总是说一段，唱一段，演一段，再舞一段。我们想解决这个问题，让它成为一颗菜，让它成为一个有机的整体怎么办？它就必须是融会贯通的，它必须是你中有我，我中有你的。于是我们又请来了第3支辅导老师，就是主演过大型音乐剧的区歌舞剧院的老师，来专门给我们教什么呢？怎么能够说着台词唱歌，怎么能够跳着舞唱歌。这3支导演组的优秀团队，在21天的时间内，终于不分昼夜的让我们零表演的研究生、本科生们完成了《花山奇缘》的全剧的表演任务。尽管有瑕疵，但是也付出了艰辛的汗水和劳动，也非常的难能可贵。这个我们的校园戏剧本来做的都是质朴戏剧，条件有限， 在疫情影响之下呢，我们的服装、我们的舞台美术、我们的道具都不能够完完整整的到位。现在我们唯一能够完整呈现的是什么呢？音乐。因为我跟我们的作曲家已经合作了20多年了，相互之间还是比较了解。再加上我们在采风阶段，我们2个一起在花山岩画那里做了一个实景演出。那个实景演出所有的音乐等于为了我们这个校园戏剧做了一个非常有效的铺垫。于是我们就设想，在这个剧本里边，我们表现的是远古的广西，是谁也不知道、谁也没有见过的一方天地。那他们的音乐是什么样呢？今天的音乐大家都知道是刘三姐啊，东南亚包括全世界都知道刘三姐对歌、山歌、盘歌、情歌等等等等。那我想我们不能用这么现代的民歌，我跟作曲家商量，咱们往远古时期追一追，就是说我们去追广西好听山歌的源头，去找那些还没有像今天这么好听的时候的那种古朴的动人。我们在这个剧本里边设计了各种各样的唱段，你比如说有是谁缔造了花山，比如说有娃仔撑起一片天，还有笨小孩也有妈妈爱，还有管不住自己，还有谁是谁的傀儡，加上我们结束曲是花山天下流传。我们的作曲家充分地调动了中国民间，尤其是广西所有的地方音乐最有特色的部分。你比如说我们的天琴，我们有一个弹拨乐叫天琴，在广西边境一带非常流行，它非常适合表达一些弹唱的微微动听、娓娓道来的这些唱段。我们还借鉴了彩调剧，还借鉴了壮剧，还借鉴了桂剧等地方戏曲的唱段。在这些地方特色音乐的加持之下，我们这几首好听的歌曲也有了不同的音乐感受。你比如说是谁缔造了花山，它充满了思辨。你比如说娃仔撑起一片天，它是一种地方音符给它支撑起来的一种孩娃式的孩子般的一种坚强。还有笨小孩也有妈妈爱，告诉大家一个道理，就是再笨的孩子也是妈妈的宝贝，也有妈妈去疼爱，这就是给我们造成一种另类励志的效果。还有管不住自己，因为所有的孩子都贪玩啊，遇到好看的、好玩的、好吃的、好耍的，就开始管不住自己。我们都会在这些乐段里边找到最适合的伴奏、最适合的配器、最适合的音色去表达。还有谁是谁的傀儡，是个3重唱，正反面人物一起来探讨啊，到底谁在表现谁，谁在掌控谁，谁在支配谁，谁是谁的傀儡。还有最后花山天下流传的时候非常温暖，因为孩子们经过种种努力降服了花怪，正面战胜了邪恶，它就有一种充满正能量的温暖，宽怀的非常博大的一种人文的情怀，在像海水一样铺展开来，给这个戏做了一个非常完整的、非常向上的总结。用21天排完全剧之后，我们专门在广西卫视找了一个最有经验的摄制这个队伍，在我们的剧场里边，我们租用了他3节给我们进行录像，然后连夜24小时的我们就编辑，总算是完成了最后的拍摄这个节点。我们的这个剧组在7月4号广西一个著名的商圈万象城给观众见了面，一口气演出了好几场片段。在7月6号抖音平台进行直播的时候，我们的剧也率先破万。再紧跟着在中国一个很著名的学习强国的一个平台上，我们挂出的全剧视频点播率已经超过了30万。 这戏剧跟电影相比，最好的一个是什么呢？我们的戏剧如果有瑕疵，还有机会弥补，而电影拍完就拍完了，它几乎是个一次性的工程。我们在接下来，我们的花山奇缘又迎来了自己的一次演出，同时也是一个弥补前期这个瑕疵的机会，就是在当下中国，庆祝中国共产党成立100周年，广西优秀舞台艺术作品展，也是我们的3年一届的第11届广西戏剧大赛。在这个活动上，我们的花山奇缘和我们以前做过的一系列的校园戏剧都会展出比赛。我们的展出日期是7月7号，就在我们广西大学自己建造的大剧院里，我们相当于是主场演出。在这中间的短短的还有1-2个月的时间里，我们有机会把上一稿当中存在的一些不足给它加以弥补。比如说，原来由于时间仓促，我们背景的视频部分做得过于简单，有的地方甚至是低幼化了。比如我们的表演经过了这几个月的沉淀，大家就更理解角色了。还有比如我们的音乐也有一些唱段进行修改，因此我们很有信心，也有把握，也欢迎我们世界各地的热爱、喜欢、从事校园戏剧的人来观摩，来给我们提出宝贵意见。我们自己也有信心把校园戏剧《花山奇缘》完满的进行演出。在疫情期间如何创作校园戏剧的分享暂时就到这里。我非常高兴参加东盟大学文化与艺术联盟2021年线上交流论坛，同时我也非常欢迎东盟大学的师生们到广西大学来做客。
Thank you very much, Professor, for all your insights regarding your craft. We definitely would like to learn more about your work. And more importantly, we're inspired to write more as well. He will also be back for the open forum, so please prepare your questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching the final leg of today's installment. But before we proceed, what's an art-centered event without us witnessing creativity in full bloom? For this next set of curated performances, the 3 AUN member universities from the Philippines each prepared a special number. From De La Salle University, we have Animove Dance Group, the official dance group of the senior high school of the DLSU Integrated School. They will be performing Noon Sa Amin, their overture from their recent online dance concert entitled Metong a Revolucionario, produced and written by Peter Alcera Jr., Ruther de los Reyes, and Danilo Limpahan Jr. From Ateneo de Manila University, we have the Ateneo Blue Repertory, the premier musical theater organization of ADMU. They will be performing an excerpt of Andre Nicolai Pamintuan's Stages of Love, the opening number of which was written and composed by Ronnie Fortich. And finally, from the University of the Philippines, a puppet production called Princepe Bahaghari, or Rainbow Prince, a Filipino adaptation of The Little Prince written by Vladimir Gonzalez and directed by Aina Ramolete. It tells the story of a prince set on a quest by the Gumamela to find someone who can provide protection in the flower's home planet. Of course, along the way, he meets a number of peculiar characters. Throughout this adventure, the prince realizes what his relationship with the flower means to him.
kasaysayan ng binatang musika ang hilig, bikong ang pangalan. Simple at tahimik na namuhay dun sa bayan San Fernando, Pampanga, lugar na sinilangan. Umawit ng kundiman na laging gustong gawin, mga harana ng dilag gamit ang kanyang bilig. Maraming nahuhumaling dahil sa angking galing, ngunit puso ni Emilia lang ang naisang kiling. Pag-ibig sa musika ang nagbigay ng kalayaan sa kanyang puso't isipan kung sinong pag-aalay. Ang babae na pinakamamahal niya ng lubusan at tungkulin sa paninindigan sa sariling bayan. Dumating ang panahon na kailangan may ialay ang pag-ibig sa pamilya o pa ang lubos sa hukay. Maranasan ng muli ang kapayapaang tunay kahit kalaya ay maging kapalit nitong buhay.
Ibig mo sa amin, o ang tinta at panulat ay patalim. Lalabanan mga dayuhan para sa bayan. Ang pag-alay mo sa amin, sa salon ng gatilyo taapoy sa madilim. Kalayaan may kapalit nitong buhay.
Musikang karugtong ng aking buhay, mapapalitan na ng ingay. Ang hawak-hawak ko ang kain na di kwerdas, kailangan ipalit tabak na matalas. Kinabukasan ng aking mga anak, ang gusto ko lang naman na makatiyak. Nakahanda ako gawin na lahat, ialay mo ng buhay ko ay hindi sapat. Dating masikero ngayon ay katipunero, tinugon ng panawagan sa amin na supremo. Wala katiyak ang kuha ng patutunguhan, hindi pwede maduwag para sa bayan. Wala na nakikitang ibang paraan, handa na sa lubong yung nakatapusan. Lahat ay handa kong ibigay, kalayaan makakapalit ito ang buhay.
Pag-ibig mo sa amin, dugo ang tinta at panulat ay patalim. Lalabanan mga dayuhan para sa bayan. Ang pag-alay doon sa amin, sa salon ng gatilyo taapoy sa madilim. Kalayaan may kapalit nitong buhay. Kalayaan may kapalit nitong buhay.
Good morning, welcome to Let the Worst. Please take a seat and let me take your order. Will it be coffee? Will it be tea? Will it be a pastry? Or will it be love? Do you remember when you first saw her? What were you thinking? How did it feel when you first saw her? What were you thinking? Were you saying to yourself, how could someone like her possibly like me? Love happens when you don't look for it. Open the door when it comes knocking, don't ignore it. How did you greet her when you got to meet her? What were the first words that opened doors?
Hello, my name is... It's nice to meet you.
You were saying to yourself,
Oh, forget introductions. Take me, I'm yours.
there are many stages that the heart goes through, and so it may take ages before he gets to you. But if it's just beginning, girl, just enjoy the ride, and soon enough you'll reach that stage where he'll be by your side.
When he first called you, could you believe it? How did you answer?
Hello? Who's this? I don't recall. Ah, yes, I remember.
While you were saying to yourself,
Oh, thank you, God. Please tell him I'm his.
love happens every day and it. Open the door, a journey's waiting, go begin it. First dance,
First dinner.
first kiss. Remember first time he told you.
I'll never go.
Yeah, right.
First fight. First break up.
First time to make up while you were saying to yourself, I hate him, love him so. There are many stages that the heart will pass. So if it's love you say just isn't gonna last, don't you believe it? Don't leave it, girl.
you realize that the answer is simple. When you really love each other, there is nothing to it. There are so many stages that the heart goes through. Just read the many pages that have led you to the one your heart belongs to and sings its songs to. It all begins with hi, hello, then love, hurt, hate, and love and so. First dance, first kiss, first call, you know, it's all a part of the stages of love.
Ano nga itong sinasabi mong yaman?
Aba, ano pa ba? Kundi isang masigabong awitan at sayawan.
Ano? Sa dinami-dami ng guloy, guguluhin mo pa ako ng tugtugan at sayawan?
Awit at sayaw, regalo ng puso sa mga tunay na kaibigan. Halika, ikaw ay sumabay sa planetang ilang hakbang lang ang isang araw. Doon ako nagulat, nananahan. Munting mundo, tahanang bulalakaw. Sa malayo'y magaslap, tignan. Halamang pandak agad-agad tumatangkad. Kailangan ng karami sa pagbantay at pag-apas. Katotoong palangoya ang siyang hanap-hanap upang ang planeta ay di agad mawasak. Libangan ko'y magwalis, maglakad, magmasid. Abangan ang araw na mabilis sumilip-silip. Tatlong bulkan ang kapiling sa pagkainip. Sayang at ang isa'y palaging umiidip. Isang umaga sa damuhan ay may nagpakita. Isang bulaklak na kawangis ng gumamela. Siya ay madaldal at lubos na banidosa. Pag nakilala ko raw siya'y wala nang hahanapin pang iba. Ang kaibigang gumamela ay lubos na maselan. Nangihina siya kapag matagal na naaarawan. Di rin niya nais makidikit sa ibang halaman. Natatakot siyang matinig, malikis o matabunan. Kaya naman ako'y naganda at nag-impake. Tinawag ang mga katotong ibon para magbiyahe. Namasyal sa kalawakan, bit-bit ang mensahe. Hanapin ang hayop na papaslang sa mga peste. At ngayon ako'y nasa iyong harapan, sumasayaw, umaawit, gaya ng isang malapit na kaibigan. Hiling ko'y mamulat ang hirayang nalumbay. Iguhit ang nais gamit ang pusong napakamakulay.
Thank you very much to our performers from LaSalle, UP, and Ateneo for those interesting numbers. They surely highlighted the beauty of the Filipino culture. Ladies and gentlemen, as we approach the final leg of today's activity, let's take a virtual trip around ASEAN Plus 3. For this next part of the program, we'll be hearing from academic professionals from each participating country as they share how their respective universities and countries plan to trudge ahead amidst the pandemic. Let's begin.
Greetings and salutations. It's a pleasure to be sharing this report on behalf of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, University Brunei Darussalam. I am Dr. Katharina Muhammad Dawud, Deputy Dean of Graduate Studies and Research, and this report constitutes a few notes on the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic on arts and cultures programs in our faculty at the National University, UBD. To provide some context on our programs, I would like to provide a brief overview of our institutional response to COVID-19. The first case of COVID-19 infection was reported in Brunei Darussalam on 9 March 2020. The last locally acquired community-spread infection was on 6 May 2020. Since then, there have been 100 import cases. Within 3 days of the first COVID-19 infection, all lectures, tutorials, and on-campus student services at UBD were online, apart from essential library services. Temperature screening stations, single entry points, and QR code scanning were implemented. Since then, UBD has aligned with the country's de-escalation plan and has introduced restructured blended learning modes, both online and physical classes, building on continuous feedback for responsive pedagogical development. As you can see in the infographic taken from the national newspaper, as of 1st June 2021, it has been 391 days since the last local transmission in Brunei Darussalam. Due to Brunei Darussalam's careful management and gradual de-escalation over the last year, it has been possible to conduct traditional exhibitions and screenings locally, albeit with health and safety measures still in place to monitor the safe capacity of public spaces and galleries to accommodate appropriate social distancing, and with the introduction of measures such as temperature screening and QR code scanning to ensure the safety of all events. Traditional exhibitions have been ongoing, with a more limited capacity for visitors. Graduating students from the Design and Creative Industries program at FAS UBD were able to hold their annual graduation exhibition, Spectrum, in May 2021. Our usual semester film screenings have been possible, as have been collaborations with local industries, including the installation of a large-scale work comprising almost 1,000 books for a local literary festival, designing Ang-Pao packets for local companies, and agreements with local national media platforms to air short films and public service announcements, or PSAs, produced by students as part of their work at UBD. At the same time, students have continued to participate in international events which have been made accessible through online and digital platforms, including, of course, Asia Rising 2021 and the Dracula Film Festival 2020, even winning the Dracula digital competition with a short film. These were events that lent themselves well to online or digital participation. Building on from this, however, faculty who are involved in arts and culture programs have also participated in regional seminars and discussions on what performance in the new normal might look like. For example, in this online seminar hosted by University Technology Mara in Malaysia, discussing online theatre, a performance form for the new normal. The reflections from these discussions have been integrated into experiential learning forms at UBD, including the production of a festival of monologues in our Malay Performing Arts module, which featured 9 different kinds of performances, and which was broadcast live on Zoom to the public. Looking forward, we can expect to see more regional connections across digital platforms, which may supplement in-person events as we consider how traditionally live, transient productions can find a new regional and global audience. Thank you.
Good morning. Warmest regards from Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Thank you for the given opportunity to share with you the current COVID-19 situations in Indonesia and how it impacted Indonesia's culture, arts, and creative industry. Ladies, gentlemen, friends of AUNCA, as the whole world has been well aware, at this point, the pandemic has been affecting and continue to affect virtually every aspect and field of human activities. In Indonesia, educational activities in any academic setting are one of the areas where major impact of the pandemics are evident. Culture and art programs, as much as other programs in Indonesia's education, are impacted by the challenges of redesigning and reorganizing teaching and learning processes to adjust to the changing policies and procedures in response to the rampaging pandemic. In this situation, the ensuing major shift to virtual teaching and learning processes, as required by the health protocols, has forced teachers and students of culture and arts to make the best use of virtual and digital platforms as their main media of creative expressions. Numerous on-site or offline cultural and arts activities all over Indonesia are no longer possible, and therefore they need to make strategic effort to adjust the organizations of the culture and arts programs to the new normal of interactions between teacher and students and among students, as well as to create various kinds of activities that can enhance the virtual and cultural as well as artistic experiences and expressions of student artists in the country. Studies on this issue have been made to evaluate how issues has been addressed so far. The interesting findings of those studies are, at least there are two common disadvantages and advantages. In terms of advantages, online-based learning for art class required a specific supporting technologies and access to those facilities that are available for all students. And this is difficult in Indonesia's context. Second disadvantages is the needs of effective teaching strategies and specific skill to maintain students' engagement and attention through the entire virtual class, which still pose many problems in many educational institutions in Indonesia. This is not to mention the specific challenges that each art subject carries for the virtual classroom setting. In terms of the advantages, online arts learning can lead to many creative ideas and innovations that are enabled by virtual and digital media, and to the findings of new approaches to collaborative engagement between students and teachers that can improve their digital literacy. Ladies and gentlemen, as reported in the Ministry of Education and Culture website, Mr. Ishaq Zamjani acknowledges that COVID-19 pandemic has caused a substantial disruption and necessitates arts practitioners to adopt new strategies, new protocols, and alternative options to do their works. Like in many other countries, the most important efforts that are commonly taken by the policymakers in Indonesia are developing policies and providing organized and systematic support for the citizen to be able to have access to virtual platforms and use, create, perform, and to enjoy arts. It is elaborated in the website that many important measures have already been taken so far. For example, the founding of Communication Forum for Education and Culture, the organization of virtual events and programs by the Ministry of Education and Culture. This includes appreciation for cultural actors, cultural program support, support for online activities, National Cultural Fair, Mega Virtual Film, Cultural Podcast, and Nusantara Music Digitalization. There is also organization of joint programs by the Ministry of Education and Culture in collaborations with the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy This collaborations establishes many programs and events, such as creative programs from home, technical guide to post-COVID-19 recovery, digital startup development, and the movement which promote of being proud of Indonesian's products. Aside from that, both ministries have issued a joint decree on virtual technical guide for the prevention and control of coronavirus disease in culture and creative economy during the public health emergency period of COVID-19. All of these actions and programs reflect the ways Indonesians' cultural offices prepare for the new normal in the arts, which constitute their responsibilities in response to the pandemic. There are still so many parts that needs improvements, but one thing for sure, they have made attempts to deal with the challenges. I do hope that we, all members and participants of this AUNCA program, can learn from each other to better prepare ourselves in facing and dealing with the pandemic and the recovery process afterwards. Thank you very much. Stay healthy and happy. Thank you.
Mabuhay! Greetings from the Philippines. This country status report shall cover the following points: the big blow of the pandemic on the creative industries and educational institutions, the outlook for the industry on how we can move forward given these scenarios. The COVID-19 pandemic has placed everyone's lives to a sudden halt as immediate measures were put in place by governments such as physical distancing, lockdowns, work from home arrangements, and cancellations of mass gatherings. With the arts being highly dependent on social interaction, the creative industries and art making are among those badly hit. Cancelled engagements meant unpaid work, audience refunds, and revenue losses, which were valued at 132.83 million pesos from the figures gathered by the National Live Events Coalition as of end 2020. Naturally, cost-cutting measures were immediately implemented, and the first to go is the human capital, as jobs lost were estimated at 400,000. Most of the country's large events venues were transformed instead as COVID-19 facilities. Most businesses and events and all educational institutions have fully migrated online. The sector's vulnerability is also magnified by the onslaught of this crisis, and the industry is not given funding priority, especially when the immediate need is to mitigate the spread of the virus. In the education sector, particularly on the culture and arts offices or campus arts programs, there were around 748 private schools which have declared closure for the academic year, which also led to the discontinuation of the cultural programs and closure of their cultural offices. With the closure comes the layoffs of the artistic trainers, which are usually under contractual basis. Meanwhile, the full-time staff were not spared from these effects, as some were given any of the following: early retirement packages, salary freezes, pay cuts, and job recalibration through reassignments to other offices or giving of additional assignments, regardless of the current skill set of the personnel. Worst cases would also include the effects on scholarships of the student artists, as they are also discontinued. On the other hand, the only significant redeeming factor, which can also eventually justify the continuity of the cultural programs, is that the arts served as relief from domestic and academic stresses, especially for the student artists who continued their artistic trainings. In terms of the creative industry outlook, the Creative Economies Council of the Philippines prepared a creative industries impact table, which shows the different industry domains and how they are foreseen to recover based on the given limitations of the lockdown and the nature of artistic products. The impact table projects that the natural and cultural heritage and performance and celebration domains are those that will experience slow recovery, while creative services and audiovisual, broadcast, and digital media will recover fast. With these projections in mind, it's time we soldier on and accept the challenges of moving forward in the new normal, as things will definitely not go back to the way it was pre-COVID. I have 5 C's for us to remember as we tread our way out of this pandemic. First is care. As we are also likened to being frontliners in our field, we need to practice self-care for both our physical and mental health. Likewise, we should also show genuine concern to our colleagues and students by regularly checking up on them and how they're coping. The artists who we work with will not be able to create good art if their overall wellness is compromised. Next is communication. One of the most problematic aspects of management these days is establishing the most effective communication systems for our organizations. Let's encourage establishing virtual safe spaces where our co-workers and students can freely speak, much like when we had our physical offices. Artists and arts managers are innately social people, and for sure, we are looking for these types of venues to connect. Then we have continuity. Let us try to think of ways on how we can go around our present situations and continue with our programs and engagements with our students, even if our budgets were cut or even if some even lost their jobs. We are artists even before we were hired as creative workers. Let us tap into our entrepreneurial skills and practice creativity as to how we can make the most out of our talents for us to survive. Let us prove that arts and creativity can sustain us. Next is collaboration. Today, more than ever, we have to think of ways in synergizing our talents and efforts in arts making. We can create online collectives or joint art classes and pool in our resources to still make art accessible to our audiences and patrons here and abroad. Lastly, moving forward, the only way for creatives to prevail is to fully embrace change. We need to challenge ourselves in creating more dynamic audience engagement opportunities as people resort to in-home entertainment on multiple channels and devices. We need to come up with new stories and perspectives, new modes of delivery and business models, exercise agility in our mindsets, and unleash our entrepreneurial spirit to earn sustainably from our creative products. As creatives, we will face the new normal bearing the scars and lessons that this pandemic has brought us, putting into our hearts our commitment to continue with our craft. Serve as inspiration to other artists who were forced to stop their training or practice due to unavoidable circumstances, to still pursue their art once they are ready and provide that feeling of wellness to our audiences that experiencing art can bring. Let's keep in our minds and hearts that the arts will prevail. Thank you very much for listening and have a good day.
Greetings from Singapore. This report presents a summation of income and opportunities lost within the creative industries due to the pandemic, the current landscape in Singapore, and the efforts to maintain arts activities despite the challenges. To date, Singapore has seen 61,890 COVID cases, 61,329 have recovered, and there are 32 deaths. Since March last year, 2,892 persons reported the lost income of $24,385,000 in close to 9,000 projects. However, these numbers do not accurately reflect the full picture, as they do not include the losses and impacts suffered by arts businesses and government arts institutions as annual reports for the period are unavailable. A more accurate picture will emerge towards the end of the year. Singapore has been placed on Phase 2 heightened alert with effect from 16th May to 13th June to deal with the sudden rise of local unlinked community cases. Restrictions include the reduction of operating capacity for museums and exhibition galleries. Similarly, the operating capacity for performing arts venues is capped at 25% or a maximum of 100 persons with pre-event testing and 50 people without pre-event testing. All persons must be masked throughout. Only performances which have been publicized before 5th May may continue. Organizers must seek special permission from the Ministry of Trade and Industry before proceeding. A total of only 15 persons may be involved in the production, both on stage and backstage. Of these, only 10 may be unmasked performers. If there are singers or wind or brass musicians in the production, only 2 may be unmasked and the same people throughout. The Singapore government has shown support for the arts by topping up the Arts and Culture Resilience Package by adding 20 million Singapore dollars to the 55 million set aside in April last year. These will be distributed in the form of grants for operating costs for arts companies, protecting the jobs of full-time employees in the arts, venue hire subsidies for supported venues, and project-specific grants to support self-employed persons in the arts and helping arts companies upgrade their business strategies for the new normal. So, what about the arts on campus? From now until 13th of June, all campus arts activities must be conducted online, including training, rehearsals, and meetings. We are uncertain as to what will happen after 13th June. Will the restrictions ease, or will Phase 2 heightened alert continue? But just as restrictions had gradually eased in December, allowing us to present 18 live shows and 27 digital events in NUS Arts Festival 2021, we remain hopeful that the restrictions will be fully lifted one day. Thank you.
Similar to other countries, Thailand encountered the first lockdown in April to June last year. Then we encountered a second wave in January this year. Actually, everything seems to be recovered since February, but in the second quarter of 2021, the situation seems to be similar to the first pandemic last year. Thailand now is facing the third wave of the pandemic in the mid of April until now, which was more severe than the last two waves. We have approximately 2,000 new cases and 30 deaths every day. In some provinces like the capital city and the outskirts, the government tried not to say that there is an official lockdown, but actually it's quite similar. Schools and universities are closed. Students and teachers need to study and teach via online platforms. Most companies require the staff to work from home. Dining in the restaurant is restricted, only delivery service is available, and department stores open late and close early. The pandemic flattened all activities, especially cultural and art scene and the creative industries. All cultural events, art spaces, and creative industries such as museums, exhibitions, archaeological sites, concerts, plays, and cinema were closed, cancelled, and postponed, and the tourism industry was suspended since the first wave of the pandemic last year until now. This had direct effects on cultural workers. They had problems with household finances, layoffs, and decreasing reserve funds. These conditions have meant that all cultural workers have needed to adjust themselves to the new way of living. All forms of art are now presented via online platforms like Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and there is also a virtual tour which allows people to travel to any places from home. In Thailand, we now have many events available in new format. For example, a drive-in music event that uses tuk-tuks as seats for social distancing. a music festival which audiences can experience the concert from their hotel balconies, or a drive-in cinema and a drive-in restaurant that used audiences or customers' own cars as seats. However, this is a tough time for teachers and students in some kind of arts like music performance. The music students who need to practice with others in an ensemble cannot make it, so they try their best to practice together via online platforms. But as you know, that the result is not similar to practice together in person. Some students need to change their recital to online and have their audiences watch from home. Regarding solutions or remedies, during the first pandemic, Thai government supported 5,000 baht to Thai people who are qualified, which meant that not everyone was supported. Most of the cultural workers were those who rarely received any support from the government because most of them are freelance. This group of people are the first group who are affected by the pandemic, but are the last group who receive any supports. So, what cultural offices should prepare for the new normal in the arts are proposing an urgent policy and strategies to remedy artists and all cultural workers, fostering cooperation between several sectors, like the government, private sectors, or academic sectors, to create new cultural platforms, proposing strategies about cultural space in order to support various cultural innovations, developing cultural community by using communities' cultural capital, which will be a good opportunity in driving creative economy, and exploring and researching arts and culture in new ways, and initiating interdisciplinary cultural innovations, which can be used for further country development.
Hi everyone, my name is Lena. I'm from Vietnam National University. Today I would like to share a brief information of Vietnamese situation in the pandemic. Yes, it is very sad to say that this day is not good for our country because we have many new cases in communities. Yeah, exactly time is from 28 April. We have some new cases in community, and from that day until now, every day we have more than 100 new cases in community. For me, Vietnamese government and Vietnamese people control the coronavirus is very well, because the total new cases until now, from the beginning until now, just around more than 5,000, more than 5,000 cases in communities. And compared to the other country, I think this is not much. But sometimes when the coronavirus appear in community, so we have to stop many kind of activities in community. And we don't know when the coronavirus come to our country. Of course, the pandemic affect to artists and cultural activity in my country. But luckily, we have some time, like we have a period of time we don't have any new case in communities. So the government allow the people, can go to the theater to watch movie, can go to the theater to watch a play, and can participate any kind of activity they want, can take part tourism they want. And so that's help Vietnamese people feel very good and not very comfortable. In some periods of time we don't have any new case in the community, and surprisingly, for film industry in Vietnam, we set a record in post office in pandemic. Yeah, very many people very surprised about that because most of movie theater in the world cannot release the new movies or cannot have audience to see movies. But my country, we have some periods of time open for Vietnamese audience, and this is the first of time a Vietnamese movie set a record at post office, because they do not have competition with the other country like Hollywood movies. And when audience know in theater have new movies released, and if that movie make them feel happy, make them feel connection with their family, so they will they decide to go to the theater. And the movies, the name of that movie is The Father, and they get record with, I remember, more than 17 million US dollars. That's very high. That's a record, very high in my country. But the pandemic really affect to the other activities, like some the other movies, they release just 1 day or 1 week, and the coronavirus appear in community, so the government stopped the cinematic theater, and so that movie cannot continue to show for audience, and so maybe they lost many money for that. And the coronavirus or the pandemic really affects to the implement of art in my country, because many art organizations have many kind of activities to develop art in my country for 2 years, like develop Vietnamese culture through theater, something like that. But very hard for us to implement these days. Many art activity canceled when the pandemic come, and many kind of activity they turn into online. But for me, when you make art, you do online not good. For me, if you want to develop art, you need the audience or you need the artist have the true experience when they make their artworks, or they try to enjoy the artworks. So many kind of art organization or art school or art university in my country have to cancel many kind of workshop, many kind of art festival these days. Although they prepare a lot, they prepare because I already told you guys we have some time. We have some time. The government can open all of activities in community. But when they prepare and they finish everything, and new cases in community appear, so we have to stop and we have to wait. And like the student artists in my university, we have many kind of activity for like healing with the art. Yeah, and so we just do one day, and we have to stop because you cannot healing with the art online. Yeah, because I need my student or I need the student artist had to true connection with the others people, or they can perform before many peoples without any fears inside. Yeah, that's very difficult for us. And yes, the common measures we have done these days is first is turn some courses, some workshop online. Yes, we don't have any the other measure for that. But some art organization like us, we prepare when the government don't allow us to gather more than 30 people or 30 participants. So this time for us to prepare many kind of activities like I have a team for my art project, and so I prepare to release a theater, and I prepare something this day. Yeah, I don't meet many people, but I can meet a small group, and I can prepare, like I can work with my actors. I can work with my producer to prepare something. And when the coronavirus stopped in my country for a short time or for a long time, I don't know, but when they disappear, we will back to normal, to new normal. We can organize our activities. You know, we have just finished an activity very successful before the pandemic come back. Let's see music performance for Vietnamese young people, and that's also a talk show about a very talented musician in my country, and that is the musician very inspired to Vietnamese people because his lyrics is very beautiful. And with that performance, we organize very successful, and that performance we prepare before the pandemic come back to my country. So the other organization or the office, culture office in my country, they also prepare something like they prepare the fund to help us. They prepare fund for us to apply to apply to run our project. Not much, but I think this is very useful for us to continue to do with us. And the other office, they help us like advertise or help us have like the better condition to do our project. But not much, because you know the pandemic is very difficult for many people, and so to come back the new normal, we have to adapt. We have to prepare everything. like we prepare what will we do if the pandemic appear, or if we get a bad situation. And we have to prepare, we have to have like many backup activities first. And so although the pandemic influence us very much, a lot of many activity cancel, or many intensive activity cannot organize. But I think we already defined the purpose. We would like to work with Vietnamese young people. We define many kind of activities we would like to do with our student artists. So we just keep up with that by many ways, many kind of like online, okay, but sometimes we have the other kind. We have the other kind to connect with people, like a small group, with my student or with the young artists in my country. And so, although difficult, but I think we can success and we can win the pandemic, and we can back to new normal soon. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, greetings of peace. I'm Dr. Ewan Ouyang from Guangxi University, and today I'm pretty honored to be invited by AUNCA to share with you the current status in China. And I will answer the questions in sequence. The first question: what's the current COVID-19 situation in your country at this time, specifically the second quarter of 2021? For this question, I'm proud to say that currently we as Chinese are completely exempt from the fear caused by COVID-19, because the government has taken very strict and protective measures since the breaking out of the pandemic. So for this moment, we have only few domestic cases taking place occasionally from time to time. Another piece of good news is that the people are getting vaccinated in a large scale, which has already covered 500 million of the people. For myself, I have already received my first vaccine. We need 2 in total, by the way. And I myself has received a very special QR code. You can see that it is decorated with lovely pink flower pattern. And after I receive my second vaccine, that will turn to be a golden code, a golden QR code decorated with ethnic pattern, ethnic brocade pattern. That's my answer for the question. Thank you. Right, the second question: how has the pandemic impacted your country's culture and art scene and the creative industries? Well, in the initial phase of coping with the pandemic, obviously culture and arts were severely impacted because we had to reduce physical contact among people. So there were immediate regulations of shutting down cinemas, concerts, exhibitions, and so on. However, it did not take much time for us to find replacement. So we started to explore more and more possibilities of carrying on arts and creative industries online. And people, artists, soon get accustomed to online teaching, online education, and online performance of arts. And we started to hold a lot of art exhibitions. Okay, now it's the turn of the third question. How has the pandemic generally affected the implementation of culture and arts program and student artists in your country? Well, I think the pandemic has formed a special memory for student artists during the year of 2020, and up to now. It's not a miserable memory. But rather they receive an important lesson of how people should unite together, stand together with their governments to defeat and to overcome this worldwide crisis, which was a national crisis at the first time. They are moved and inspired by the heroic stories of medical doctors, nurses, volunteers, and every one of the common citizens. And they started to create a lot of artworks. For example, songs, films, paintings, and posters, and so on, to review and to promote, share these feelings and values generated by this huge pandemic period. At the same time, I think as a young generation, they cope very well with the new techniques growing along with this online period, and I think they are doing a very great job in my mind. Last question, what common measures were done to remedy the situation? How should cultural offices prepare for the new normal in the arts? Well, since China has already controlled the pandemic crisis rather successfully, I'm happy to say that most of our art education and creative industries have revived to the normal status before 2020. And we can even say that they are involving more people, attracting more people to attend, since we spent a rather boring year in 2020. Whatever will happen in the future, I believe the cultural offices all over China are well prepared, and we are well equipped with the experience to cope with the lasting new normal in the future. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk about the current COVID-19 situation in Japan and the effect on culture and art activities. My name is Takao Inamori from Okayama University, Japan. First of all, let me emphasize that this report does not represent Okayama University's interpretation, but totally my perspective. First of all, let me explain about current COVID-19 situation in Japan. The case is confirmed not only in a big city like Tokyo and Osaka, but also in a local city as well. Now we experienced the fourth wave of COVID-19 on May 8th. Over 8,000 cases are confirmed, but it seems the wave was peaked out around the middle of May. Now new cases are going down because of the declaration of the state of emergency. The first question is, how has the pandemic impacted the culture and art scene and the creative industries? To support culture and art industries, the Agency of Cultural Affairs prepared 37 billion yen in third quarter of 2020, which is about 240 million US dollars. According to the website, there's a lot of schemes, but for example, for group and company, maximum 6 million US dollars interest-free loan is provided. And the freelance performer and artists, this is also example, $1,500 US monthly interest-free loan will be provided. According to a think tank estimation, the sales, which include the sports industry as well, is 75% down if compared to last year, and the loss is approximately 80 billion US dollars. To cope with the pandemic, the seat capacity of the theater and the music hall is reduced to 50%, and the face shield is also common in live entertainment. The transparent plastic partition is also used to avoid infection. However, once the government declared the state of emergency, the live theater and the music hall shuts down. Next question, how has the pandemic generally affected student artists in my country? First of all, I need to emphasize that most of the culture and art activities are conducted at school and university. If a school gives them an activity permit, they can continue the activity. However, currently, all the club activity is suspended in our university. The pandemic changed some traditional manner in the tea ceremony as well. As you can see the right photo, there were distance between host and the guest. Then table usually is shared among the guests, and how to wipe the bowl and pass to the next guest are part of the manner, traditional manner. But as now tea will be prepared and drink individually. However, again, even the students try hard, if the government declare the state of emergency, the activity will be suspended and school are shut down. Our next question is, what common measures were done to remedy the situation? Probably it must be quite similar to other countries. Keeping social distancing, wearing a mask, checking body temperature, and the sanitizing by alcohol spray are very common. Moreover, in our university, without showing a medical certificate or PCR test result, authorized absence will be granted if the student has COVID-19 related symptoms like sneezing or fever. As for sanitizer and alcohol related goods are common in our life. You can see the goods in a red circle. The final question is, how should the cultural offices prepare for the new normal in the arts? I think the issues are distance and the contact. Now online live performance is getting more and more popular in Japan. It grows into $450 big market now. So the online approach will be one of the options. The second option will be performance and display in public place. If there is a place with good ventilation and more space, we can overcome the issue. The third option will be applying AR technology. It will provide new expression methods to the culture and art activity. Thank you very much. This is a report from Japan.
Thank you very much, dear professors and educators, for all your country updates and your insights on how we can move our creative industries forward as one united region. That was truly enriching and eye-opening. To our dear guests, for the final part of the program, we want to hear from you. That's right. We are now opening the floor for questions that you may wish to ask any of our distinguished keynote speakers. Again, may we call on our distinguished keynote speakers, national artist Ryan Cayabyab, Mrs. Santha Bhaskar, and on behalf of Professor Hongyi, we have Dr. Yiwen Ouyang from Guangxi University. Maybe we can start with the open forum. So to ask, simply type in your question via Zoom chat, and I will read your question out loud during the forum. Shall we begin? Okay, I think we have already collected some of the questions, and yes, and the first is from Nikki Duron of JDP NCCA. How has the pandemic affected the support of your respective organizations, donors or sponsors, and how do you keep them and maintain relationships with them despite the limited number of performance and activities? So that's a long question. So who would like to answer that? Yes, Mrs. Santha Bhaskar.
In Singapore, our company, that is Bhaskar's Dance Company, is the one of the first major grant recipient from National Arts Council of Singapore. And we do get arts funding for our performances. So we are allowed to perform with safe distancing and very strict theater regulations. So very graceful to the Singapore government for giving us this grant. Actually, our audience are our donors and sponsors. We don't have any corporate sponsorship from any of the companies in Singapore. So I think it's a blessing because we don't have to in this difficult time, we don't have to, thank them, or, we don't have to go with their, rule and regulations. So managing that is a big challenge. So actually our audience are the donors and the sponsors. I really thank them now.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Bhaskar. How about Mr. Ryan Cayabyab?
In our cases, because we have several projects, I think it's a standard operations procedure to present every year to your donor or benefactor what you have done, and then to ask for them for the next year's sponsorship package. This is quite SOP, and I've learned about it since I started working with the San Miguel Foundation for the Performing Arts, because even there in that milieu, when I was doing foundation work with the SMC, every year we had to do the usual yearly report and annual what you had done for the entire year. And so you present your budget for the next year, and then they will decide if you're over budget or you're under budget or you did not spend your money well. So I think it's very important that you maintain very good relationships with your sponsoring organization or your main benefactor. With regards to some of the projects, they have closed already, but some we go by the usual SOP. Yearly, annually, we knock on the doors of the prospective sponsors, the usual prospective sponsors, and we just think positive that the reason they like coming with us, joining with us, is because we're doing something for the community, which is the more important, purview of all these, the more important reason for all these.
Thank you, Mrs. Bhaskar and Mr. Cayabyab. I guess whether the sponsors are your audiences or you have benefactors, it is important that we maintain a very good relationship with them. Okay, the next question is from Martin Lopez of FEU Center for Culture and the Arts. With online productions, there is an increasing reliance on editing, which is a good skill to learn, not just by the production team, but by the performance as well. Now, how do you balance the need for good editing in online productions with returning to performing for a live audience, which cannot be edited? Who'd like to go first? So yes, Mr. C.
I think, first of all, it's best to collaborate with people who have very good ideas in theater, if you want to go back to theater, because many of them think in a way that is very progressive. At the same time, they use ideas that are, I think, used always in theater, which are very, very important. So it has to still be creative. I guess, Martin, media editing media is another form of art, and to actually use it and boost it as another to another level, meaning, wow, very artistic. Editing, very artistic presentation. I've seen some of them done that way, and I see the people behind. No wonder it shows that it's not just the entertainment value, but there is a very high artistic level, and that is when you find out who are behind these productions. I think that's the way to go about it, because eventually, when you graduate, and now we have a new platform. It's a new media related platform that can go side by side with live. I think that should be the case.
So it's something like hybrid of two platforms, right? Okay. Mrs. Bhaskar, would you like to share your thoughts on this?
For us, actually, dance is to perform actually in front of even a camera is the dancers need to be taught because we are so used to stage. It's a wider space that you're using and the camera is a smaller and we need to learn how to dance in front of even a camera. So the editing comes as Dr. mentioned, like it is like actually a different study itself. To learn that, I think it will take more than few years for a student to learn editing. So I don't think it is like advisable for anyone, any dancers, even artists, to be learning so many techniques. The dance itself is you need the whole lifetime to that itself is not sufficient according to Indian philosophers. You need another birth to continue this art form to make it perfect. So there's no, with that, how do you ask the students to learn editing? And then, I think it's a different technique altogether that you should master it, I think. So that's my point. Like, as Ryan, our friend, explained, it's very, it can be complementary, but it is not that, it is not a professional production. It will be that if you do that with students learning it, and then it'll become very amateurish. So if you wanted to achieve a standard, then you need to have like knowledge about it and study about it, and then thorough knowledge is necessary to continue editing. Even to become a film director is a different learning, I suppose. So maybe, who knows, in future students may become, like we call it, they may learn many things, not only just performance. They may try to learn other things to acquire knowledge. So that may help them, I suppose. So that's my thought about it.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Bhaskar. So I guess each art discipline would have to discover its own way of dealing with this new hybridities in bringing our works to our audience. Okay, another question from Leah from Leah Marcelo of Para sa Sining Laboratory Incorporated. With artworks and productions being showcased live online and pre-recorded performances provided to production teams, how is the intellectual rights ensured for the artists, especially if the performance is saved in social media platforms, say FB Live after the show? So seeing as film works or visual works are known to be reproduced online. How do you deal with this? What are your thoughts on this? Mrs. Bhaskar? Yeah, okay. I'm sorry.
I think friend Ryan should start, I think.
No, because I might forget what I'm going to say. Thank you, ma'am. There are systems in place, and they're actually very strict. As a matter of fact, for example, you cannot use certain pieces of music. No, you cannot use pieces of music without permission. And there's so many licenses that you need, especially now. This is a different kind of license because, for example, when you use a song, you have many licenses to get. For example, performance license, synchronization license, broadcast license, and mechanical license, meaning you have to reproduce all your songs in many different formats. But now that you have social media and you have different platforms that you can actually show these, you need the licenses, you need the permission and the licenses to have to reproduce and synchronize the music. It is not anymore like free music, free visuals. You cannot do that anymore, especially now with the intellectual property office of the Philippines. It's they also there are a watchdog. The PhilSCAP is a watchdog. The Philippine performance societies, these are watchdogs, and they're very strict in implementing usage of their ownership of audio, ownership of video. Anything that they own, you cannot use. You have to ask permission.
Thank you, Mr. C. Mrs. Bhaskar?
Yeah, I just remembered that, you know, in Singapore, our Minister for Law, Mr. Edwin Tong, he had a master plan has been drawn up for 10-year plan to boost Singapore's position as hub for intangible assets and intellectual property. So there's a law, I think, being drawn in Singapore. So I think in many ways, I think we are safe. I'm not much worried about intellectual property. Somebody is being like, I mean, there is a rule and regulation. I think it is very personal, I suppose. It's your, you need to be in guard what you're doing. And that I'm not a friend of YouTube, and I'm not very friend of, so I can't watch a lot of virtual performances too. I am not a friend of all that. So I have not thought about actually at all about what is intellectual property is all about actually. So I think it is, we are in Singapore, we are safe, I suppose, because government take care of a lot of things for us. Yeah. For an artist, I think it's the best place to live, because even in at the university, National University of Singapore, Center for the Arts, they take care of artists very. I should say that I'm very lucky to be there, part of their teaching wing. Everything is being taken care. Even that is why when I wanted to talk about donors and sponsors, most of the performances are donated or sponsored by the Center for the Arts. So the university provide theater, they provide costumes, they provide free training for the students. I don't think any other university or anywhere that this is possible, a place that you can come and learn any kind of art, not only just traditional arts. It is all given free to them through the Center for the Arts. It's kind of funding. So we are always in a very comfortable, in position in Singapore. Okay, everything is being taken care of. Why do we worry much about it? It's not so good, but at the same time, it is a positive, energy that we have in Singapore, taking care of things. So you're not allowed to do that and this. Okay, that's fine, but it's all good for us. I think that is what I think Singapore is all about, and the master plan for intellectual property is being taken care. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, welcome to the open forum, Dr. Yuen Ouyang. So you haven't missed much.
Sorry, I missed your questions because I just gave my class for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But basically,
Okay.
I missed. Yeah, I've missed everything. I've missed a lot of questions. Yeah, but I'm back at the moment.
Thank you for
Can you
being
hear me?
here. Yeah, we were actually discussing something about the implications of the new normal on the intellectual property rights and how we are dealing with it. And the insights from the discussion, we're happy to hear that Singapore is dealing with it very well, and they're coming up with new measures on how to deal with intellectual property rights. I guess that as we learn new ways of dealing with the different platforms, we also have to learn new laws, new codes, because new platforms are coming in, new collaborations, no? And with it will entail new ways of regulating the use of the creative works. Okay, would you like to add something to that, Dr. Ewan?
Well, I think we've already had very strict regulations on in terms of the intellectual property, because we cannot use any material we find from internet just casually. But we need to respect. We need to let the authors know, or we need to do that in a certain frame. I think we just do that naturally.
Thank you for that. So there is one question, actually, Dr. Ewan, for you and Professor Hu. How were you able to rehearse and film the production in the height of the pandemic? Were all the cast and crew put together in a bubble? And if so, did the university cover all the costs? And how did you ensure the safety of everyone?
Yeah, I just saw the question. The fact is that we were not in the height of the pandemic, but we had very few cases in Guangxi area. Because in China, the pandemic was controlled very early. So we didn't encounter any difficulty. In terms of the cost, that was funded by government, because Professor Hu applied for funds from government. So the government covered the cost.
Thank you for that. We're glad to hear that you are dealing with it in a very in a fashion that is supported by the government. Another question from Peter Alcedo of De La Salle University: is it possible these days in other areas or countries for artists to gather, following government health protocols and testing, for shoot to use in their online productions? Or have any group done the same? Please do share with us your experience and thoughts. I think this was what Professor Dr. Ewan has already shared. So now we'll hear from Mrs. Bhaskar and Mr. Cayabyab.
We have not done any filming with artists from abroad, but I have done some music composition from India, because my last production music composer was not able to come to Singapore to help our musicians. So what we did that, like, we practiced his composition, and virtually we had a meeting, Zoom meeting, and then made the musicians to play that his composition, and he's kind of corrected them. And in that way, we collaborated with our music composer. That was for the last production, one of my last production for Esplanade Theatre, and with one of the major grand production was that, like, it was called the Sepoys. That we have done, but I have not done anything other than that. Like, I do not know how I will do it, because if there are dancers, I do not know how I can do it virtually, working somebody from abroad, and then physically, our studios are still not opened yet fully. So how do we do that? Like, it is a tough. We don't want to become robots, actually. So that's another thing that, like, I'm not like, a lot of things like becoming very robotic, and what will happen to the human flesh and blood and our physique, what will happen to our emotions, all these are being questioned at this pandemic period. As in my paper I did mention, I'm not very optimistic, but I know that the new normal may become the normal. What will happen, people wearing mask and then dancing, how do you perform on stage with mask? So you can't. And especially Indian dance, we need our face to emote our expression. I think we are humans now. I need to laugh, I need to smile. With my mask, I won't be able to do that. So how do you become this new normal, become normal? I really worry about it. Yeah. So that is what I think it's all about. Like, I have not done any other than collaboration with anybody else. Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Cayabyab?
I think that was addressed to the foreign participants, but may I just say that I'm very jealous of the government support of both countries. It's like, Wow. Here we have to really look for sponsorship and beg for funds so that we can put up all these projects. Now, with regards to productions, I think we already have instituted what they call the locked in, which is why there's a lot of artists on social media saying that, oh, I've been locked in for a month or 2 months doing this series. So we have found a way. That is what humans do. We find a way to circumvent or to go around what problems we have. But yes, I can imagine Mrs. Bhaskar's concern about dancing with masks. It could be very concerning and uncomfortable, I must say.
Thank you for that, Mr. C. Another question, I guess this is the last question from Rafi Tejada of De La Salle University. What are the common plans among the culture and arts organizations of AUNCA in the next 2 to 3 years in terms of policy and program development for student, artists, and teachers? Who would like to answer this question?
Please repeat. I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
I think this is addressed to the AUNCA. What are the common plans among the culture and arts organization in the next 2 to 3 years in terms of policy and program development for student, artists, and teachers?
I think Jill should answer this question. I think Miss Glory Fee should answer this question.
Yeah, is Glory Fee around to answer this question?
Okay, it's kind of advanced in terms of how do we answer this. So far from the AUNCA schools, it's really more of on how to move forward. It's really more of collaboration and sharing resources. Also the know-how. It's actually why we really had this AUNCA activity, is because we wanted also to hear from the others who are getting or sort of getting out already out of this pandemic. And so from there we try to evolve. And since we're in the creative industries, we know that we can find ways, as Mr. C was saying, we are all people, we find ways, we are very creative as to how to adapt to the new normal. And for the schools, it's really, for now, it's all about us trying to hold the fort for our student artists, for the young people. Because of course, if they don't see anything anymore in the industry, if we stop, if we stop creating, especially for us from among the arts managers and the arts teachers and directors, then they will not be inspired at all. And that's actually why we are sort of challenged from among our ranks, especially the artist teachers who are here with us today, trying to listen, trying to make sense of things as to how they can be better teachers of arts. That's basically what I think is our responsibility as of the moment, and that's, I think, where will we pick up from in the future for the common programs that we will have as AUNCA.
I guess we still have a lot of time to discuss these things in the coming sessions, Jill, right?
Yes. Very true.
There is another question. No, I thought that was the last, from Miss Ana Piquero. Do you have a centralized institution? This question is for our speakers from China and from Singapore. Do you have a centralized institution in your countries to pay for copyrights? For example, an institution to handle music copyrights. Or do you also need to write and gain permission per composer do you have a standard pricing per use per music, or does it also varies? So it's about how you pay for copyrights for music composition. Yes, Mrs. Bhaskar.
As I remember, I have not used any outside music composition for my productions, because generally I do request my music composers to compose special music for my production. So I cannot use somebody else's music, so I have not done it. So I do not know how it works. So usually our compositions are all newly made, newly composed, or it can be traditional Carnatic music composition done by centuries ago, so that you don't need a license, because this already people are already singing those compositions without, they do need, we don't take a license for that. The traditional music, what I'm talking about, Carnatic music and North Indian music. So there are composers are, they already composed music is already in our system, so which I can use it. So I don't need a special license to take those compositions. So they are traditional music, classical music. So other than that, I have not used anybody else's music to choreograph a dance or for a production. Yeah. So I do not know how it works. So I have not paid any money to anybody to use somebody else's music composition. But I'm sure there are people here that in Singapore that they do get permission. I think for Center for the Arts, I think Mary may be able to explain, if Mary is around, that they do have a special license, I think, taken for certain compositions, because very long ago, much long ago, I have used Pandit Ravi Shankar's music, and it was being they've taken a license. CF have a license for that. So I used that his composition. It was much long ago, nearly, I think, in the 25 years ago. Yeah. So that's the only thing I remember, that I've taken somebody else's music. Other than that, I have not taken anybody else's music to choreograph. Yeah. So that is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Bhaskar. Dr. Yuen.
Yeah, I agree that everything needs to be newly composed. Otherwise, you won't be able to gain high prize in the contest. And you know that the cost for composing a new piece, a music or a dance piece, is much higher than use somebody else's. But for every time we try to apply funds from our university or government, so we need to solve before we take a decision to attend in a contest, or before we really start a project. So we will usually get funds in advance, or we get an approval of fund in advance. Otherwise, it won't result in good price.
Okay, this is a very interesting discussion on the topic of licenses and copyrights. And I think Mr. C has something to say.
Yes. The basic push, or the basic good thing about copyright is we are encouraged to write new music all the time. We are encouraged to create more music, because the past music, or if you use somebody else's music, you have to get license. But if you create your own music, or if you commission somebody to write the music, then it's your music. This is one thing good about having copyright. So if somebody likes the new music that you wrote, then they can ask permission from you. But answering Ana Piquero, there is really a centralized institution for asking for looking for copyright, requesting for copyright licenses. And in our case in the Philippines, it's the PhilSCAP, because many composers are members of PhilSCAP. If they are not, then you are constrained to go directly to the composer to get your license or your permission from the composer. So this thing about having to ask the composer personally, actually you don't need to ask the composer personally if he is already represented by a publisher, or in this case, I am represented by PhilSCAP. So which means you only need to deal with PhilSCAP, and you don't have to go to me to ask for all these kinds of permission to perform or to rearrange, etc. Because PhilSCAP, or the institution that I have assigned my rights to manage my music, they're the ones who decide. They're like the managers of the music I write. So they're the ones to decide how to deal with users of my music. Yun.
Thank you, Mr. C, for that. This discussion is, I think it sparks a lot of interest, and there are a number of comments in the chat room. And but we have a separate session for that in the coming Fridays, no? So we'll reserve all of these lengthy discussion on copyrights and licenses for that session. So thank you for asking the questions, and thank you to our keynote speakers for answering. And the questions were very insightful. And now we've reached the final juncture of today's program, and we hope we were able to inspire you today to rediscover the healing power of the arts and continue to find purpose in your creative passions. But before we conclude, I, on behalf of everyone behind this event, would like to thank today's guests by presenting the following certificates. First, for today's keynote speakers, these certificates of appreciation, and they read the ASEAN University Network, ASEAN University Network on Culture and the Arts, Commission on Higher Education, and the Association of Cultural Offices in Philippine Educational Institutions present this certificate of appreciations to today's keynote speakers, Mr. Ryan Cayabyab, Mrs. Santha Bhaskar, and Professor Hongyi for generously sharing their insights as plenary speakers on the topic, the role of arts in healing and gearing up for the new normal for the Aun-Ca Crosslight online learning session, day 1, given virtually this 4th day of June 2021, signed by Ms. Glory Fe Samodio, Aun-Ca Chair, and Dr. Choltis Diratiti of the AUN Executive Director. So may we request our AUN, they are already here, and Aun-Ca officials to open their cameras, they're already here, and award the certificate to our keynote speakers. So once again, we would like to give the certificate to Mr. Ryan Cayabyab.
Very much, Mr. C, for accommodating us.
Thank you. Maraming salamat.
Salamat po. And the same certificate is awarded to Mrs. Santha Bhaskar.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bhaskar.
The same certificate is awarded to Dr. Yuen Uyang, who will receive this on behalf of Professor Hongyi.
Yeah, thank you very, very much for listening and sharing with us.
So a round of applause for our distinguished keynote speakers. And once again, on behalf of everyone in this virtual venue, thank you for the enlightening and inspiring discussion today. And before we end our day 1 session, may we request everyone to turn on their cameras so we can capture this momentous event with our esteemed Asian luminaries. Hey, everyone, I think we have so many panels here because we have more than 100 people in the Zoom room right now. All right. So with our AUN officials and our distinguished keynote speakers, This has been a very exciting event. And I know many of our audiences from the Philippines are very happy to hear the experiences of the different countries and how they dealt with the pandemic, how they tried to pick up the pieces and start anew and navigate with what is already there, what is existing, what is available and accessible to all. Okay, so thank you to our speakers, to the organizers of the AUNCA, to the De La Salle University and the Association of Cultural Offices in Philippine Educational Institutions Incorporated. Thank you for taking time to be with us today, and we look forward to seeing you again in coming weeks. And speaking of which, here are a few reminders for those who registered to attend the coming seminars. First, please do take time to tell us what you think of today's webinar by filling out the evaluation form, which you can access by scanning the QR code that we will be flashing on screen right after the photo op. So don't forget that. We have an evaluation form, we have a QR code. Just scan the QR code and let us know what you think of today's webinar. And some reminders, the call for abstracts for the Dialogues Research Forum is due on June 12, extended till June 12, and the call for films and artworks are due on June 15. So for information on the upcoming programs of this event, visit or follow AUN's official website at www.aunsec.org and its official Facebook page. Once again, this has been Ricamela Palis from the Association of Cultural Offices in Philippine Education Institutions Incorporated. Thank you for joining me for day 1 of Crosslight online learning sessions. Have an excellent day ahead.